I'm thankful you found your way here tonight. This is a safe place to rest, and you're very welcome. Right now, you are inside, where the air is warm and steady, while the cold settles quietly outside. The windows hold the night at a gentle distance. Somewhere beyond them, winter continues on its own, unhurried, doing exactly what it always does. Here, though everything has slowed, the light in the room is soft and low, the kind that does not ask for attention. Shadows rest comfortably where they are. Nothing is moving too fast, and nothing needs to be decided. This is one of those evenings where being awake can finally feel optional. Before we settle in a little deeper, I want to thank you for being here. If this kind of quiet comfort helps you, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving your support. It truly helps this space stay warm and steady for many winter nights to come. And if you feel like it, let me know in the comments how winter has been where you live. Some nights are colder than others, and it helps to know we're not facing them alone. I imagine you here with me, sharing this quiet space. There is no expectation between us, only presence. The kind that does not require words, yet feels reassuring all the same. In the kitchen nearby, water warms patiently. A familiar sound, gentle and predictable, fills the room for a moment before fading back into stillness. A mug waits on the counter, already warm to the touch, already doing its small, reliable job of holding heat. Simple things, done the same way they have been done on many winter nights before. Outside, the cold presses on the town, on empty streets and darkened rooftops. Inside, the warmth remains exactly where it should be. The contrast is quiet and comforting, like a promise that does not need to be spoken aloud. You do not need to follow anything closely. You do not need to remember every word. Just being here is enough. If your thoughts drift, they are welcome to do so. If your body begins to soften into the chair or the bed beneath you, that is perfectly fine. Tonight is not asking anything from you. It is simply offering a place to rest. As we sit together in this calm, let the night continue on its own. Let the warmth stay with you, and allow yourself to remain here, protected from the cold, for as long as you need. The house has been here for decades, long enough that its walls have learned how to hold silence properly. Long enough that the floorboards know which spots to creak and which to keep quiet. The kind of house that understands winter intimately, that has weathered countless storms and earned the right to feel permanent. Tonight, it stands against the wind with the same patient strength it always has. The living room stretches out in amber light. A single lamp burns near the window, its shade aged to a honeyed color that makes the light itself seem thick, almost touchable. The glow does not reach the corners fully. Those remain in soft shadow, content to be partially hidden, partially known. A rug lies across the wooden floor, its edges slightly curled from years of footsteps. The pattern has faded in the center, where feet have traveled most often. Burgundy flowers, once vivid, now muted into something gentler. The wool has worn smooth there, polished by time and use into a texture that feels both old and comforting. Against the far wall, a bookshelf holds volumes that have not moved in years. Their spines are sun-faded in places, darkened with age in others. Some lean against their neighbors as if tired. Others stand upright, still dutiful. Between them, small gaps reveal the wall behind, painted a color that might have been cream once but has settled into something warmer, something closer to candlelight. On the shelf's middle row, a clock ticks, not loudly, not insistently, just a soft, rhythmic acknowledgement of seconds passing. The sound has been there so long it has become part of the room itself, like the grain in the wood or the texture of the walls. It does not demand attention, it simply continues, steady and sure, marking time that does not feel rushed. Near the window, a chair waits, upholstered in fabric that has softened over years of sitting. The armrests show where werehands have rested countless times, the material slightly lighter there, slightly thinner. A blanket drapes over one side, folded but not perfectly. The kind of fold that happens naturally when someone uses something often and returns it to roughly the same place. The window itself looks out onto the street, though there is little to see now. Darkness has claimed everything beyond the glass, except for the occasional streetlight, glowing dimly through the falling snow. The flakes drift past in irregular patterns, appearing suddenly in the light, then vanishing back into blackness. They seem to move without hurry, as if they have all the time in the world to reach the ground. And inside, protected by walls and warmth, the room simply exists. The radiator beneath the window releases a gentle hiss every few minutes. Not a sharp sound, but a soft exhalation, like the house itself breathing. Heat rises from it in invisible waves, warming the air above, creating a small pocket of extra comfort near the glass. The metal is old, painted over many times, each layer visible at the edges where paint has chipped away to reveal older colors beneath. White over cream over pale green, a history written in enamel. On the windowsill, a few objects rest. A coffee mug, empty now, its interior stained faintly from previous use. A pair of reading glasses, folded closed. A book, spine cracked from being opened to the same page many times, though it lies closed now. These things have been left here not carelessly, but with the kind of casual intention that comes from living somewhere long enough to stop arranging things perfectly. The walls themselves seem to absorb the lamplight. The paint, old and slightly uneven in places, catches the glow and holds it softly. Small imperfections, a nail hole here, a faint crack there add character without breaking the peace. This is not a room trying to be anything other than what it is. A space lived in, a space known. Above, the ceiling slopes slightly toward one corner, following the roofline. A single cobweb, likely months old, stretches between the corner and the light fixture. It moves almost imperceptibly in the warm air rising from below. No one has bothered to remove it, Perhaps no one has noticed, or perhaps it has simply become part of the room's quiet collection of small, harmless imperfections. The floor creaks once, settling under its own weight. The sound is brief and soft, barely there. Just the wood adjusting to the temperature, expanding or contracting by a fraction. The house does this often, these tiny adjustments. They are not alarming, they are familiar. In the kitchen, which can be glimpsed through a doorway to the left, a kettle sits on the stove. The burner beneath it has been turned off, but the metal still holds warmth. Steam no longer rises from the spout, though condensation has gathered on the inside of the lid. The kettle is old, its surface dented in places from years of use, its handle wrapped in faded cloth to protect against the heat. It has boiled water thousands of times. Tonight is no different, and yet, somehow, it is. On the counter beside it, the mug waits. It is ceramic, thick-walled, the kind that keeps tea warm longer than thinner cups would. The outside is a deep blue, slightly chipped at the rim. The inside shows faint tea stains near the bottom, evidence of many previous evenings. The handle fits a hand perfectly, worn smooth from being held. It is a mug that has earned its place here through simple, repeated usefulness. Beside the mug, a small dish holds a few tea bags. Chamomile, peppermint, something herbal and unnamed. The strings hang over the edge of the dish, their paper tags slightly curled. None of them are new. The box they came from was opened weeks ago, maybe longer, but they are still good. Still capable of their small, comforting work. The light in the kitchen is dimmer than in the living room. A fixture above the sink casts a pale glow downward, illuminating the basin and the few dishes that rest there. A plate, a fork, a glass turned upside down to dry. Nothing urgent, nothing that cannot wait until morning. The faucet drips once, a single drop falling with a soft plink against the stainless steel, then stops. Silence returns. Through the doorway, the living room lamp continues its quiet work. The light does not flicker, it does not dim. It simply remains, constant and warm, as reliable as the walls themselves. And in that constancy, there is comfort. The kind that does not announce itself, but is felt nonetheless. The air in the room is still, not stagnant, but calm. It carries the faint scent of old wood, of paper, of something baked earlier in the day, bread, perhaps, or cookies. The smell has faded now, but it lingers just enough to be noticed if one pays attention. It is the scent of a home, of a place where life happens slowly and without spectacle. Near the bookshelf, a small side table holds a few more objects. A coaster, its cork surface darkened from use. A half-finished puzzle, its pieces scattered across the table's surface in no particular order. Someone started this puzzle weeks ago, maybe months. Progress has been slow, but there is no rush. The image on the boxer pastoral scene, Soft greens and blues suggests the puzzle is more about the act of doing than the completion. A pencil rests beside the puzzle pieces. Its eraser is worn down to the metal. The wood shows teeth marks near the top, small indentations from moments of distraction or thought. It is the kind of pencil that has been carried in pockets, dropped on floors, picked up again, used, kept. Not because it is special, but because it is familiar. The clock on the shelf continues its steady ticking. Each second passes without urgency. Time here does not race forward. It does not drag. It simply moves, one moment following another in a rhythm so consistent it becomes almost unnoticeable. The clock's face is round, its numbers large and clear, its hands thin and black. The minute hand moves so slowly that watching it yields nothing. Only in looking away and then back does one notice it has shifted at all. On the mantel above, where a fireplace might have once been, though there is none now, only the mantel remains. Few framed photographs stand in a loose row. The frames are mismatched. Wood, metal, plastic painted to look like wood. They hold images of people, of places, of moments captured and kept. The photos themselves have faded slightly, their colors less vibrant than they once were. Faces smile out from behind glass. A beach, a mountain, a backyard somewhere, green and bright. The photos are not arranged chronologically. They are not arranged at all, really. They simply exist together, a collection of memories held in stillness. Between two of the frames, a single dried flower rests. Its petals are brittle now, its stem fragile. It might have been a rose once, or perhaps something else entirely. Time has taken its color, leaving behind only shades of brown and gray. Yet it remains here, kept for reasons that do not need explanation. Some things are held onto not because they are beautiful anymore, but because they were. The blanket on the chair shifts slightly, though no one has touched it. Perhaps a draft, too subtle to feel, has moved it. Or perhaps it is simply settling into itself, finding a more comfortable position. The fabric is wool, soft and slightly scratchy at the same time. It has been washed many times, and each washing has made it a little softer, a little more pliable. It smells faintly of lavender, though whether from detergent or from a sachet placed nearby is unclear. Outside, the wind picks up briefly, not loud, but present. It moves against the windows without violence, just a steady pressure that makes the glass creak faintly in its frame. The sound is low and even, almost like breathing, and then it fades again, leaving the night quieter than before. The snow continues to fall, unbothered by the wind, by the cold, by anything at all. The room does not change. It does not need to. It holds its warmth, its light, its stillness, as it has done for hours and will continue to do for hours more. There is no urgency here, no countdown, no expectation of what comes next. There is only now, and now is enough. Someone has lived in this house for a long time. Perhaps they still do. Perhaps they are here now, though they have not yet entered the room. Or perhaps they are away, and the house waits for their return as patiently as it does everything else. Either way, the room feels inhabited, not just occupied, but known. Loved even in the quiet way that spaces are loved when they are lived in long enough to become part of a life. The rug beneath the coffee table shows a slight indentation where something heavy once sat. A chair, maybe, or a trunk. The indentation has remained even after the object was moved, a memory pressed into wool. It is barely noticeable unless one looks for it, and even then, it is easy to overlook. But it is there, a small mark of time's passage. On the bookshelf, between two larger volumes, a postcard is wedged upright. Its image faces outward, a lighthouse on a rocky coast, waves frozen mid-crash against stone. The colors are bright and artificial, the kind of saturation that suggests the photo was taken decades ago. On the back, visible if one were to pull it free, would likely be a message, a few lines, a signature, a date. But it remains where it is, undisturbed, holding its place among the books. The lamp's cord trails down the wall to an outlet near the floor. The cord is old, its fabric covering frayed in places where it has rubbed against the baseboard. The plug is slightly loose in the socket, but it holds. It is held for years. There is no reason to think it will stop now. In the corner farthest from the window, a potted plant sits on a low stand. Its leaves are green, though some of the lower ones have yellowed and fallen, lying curled on the soil below. The plant is not thriving, exactly, but it is not dying either. It exists in a kind of stasis, receiving just enough light, just enough water to continue being. Its pot is terracotta, unglazed, with a thin line of white mineral deposit around the rim from years of watering. A saucer beneath catches any excess moisture, though the soil looks dry now. The walls, if one were to touch them, would feel cool despite the warmth in the room. Paint over plaster over old wood. Layers of history. The surface is slightly rough in texture, not perfectly smooth. Small bumps and dips that the eye might not catch, but the hand would. The baseboards are painted the same white as the trim around the windows, though the paint there is thicker, built up from many applications over many years. Above, the ceiling fan is still. Its blades, dusty along the top edges, hang motionless. No one has turned it on tonight. There is no need. The air is comfortable as it is, neither to warm nor to cool. The fan simply waits, as it often does, for a warmer season when its movement might be welcome again. The house settles again. Another small creak, this one from somewhere deeper, perhaps a beam in the walls or a joint in the frame. The sound is brief and soft, like a sigh. And then it is gone, absorbed back into the quiet that fills every room, every corner, every space between. The night outside continues its work. Snow falls, wind moves, cold presses against every surface it can reach. But inside, warmth holds, light remains, stillness deepens. And in this small pocket of shelter, carved out against the winter, there is peace. The kind of peace that does not announce itself, the kind that simply is, and will continue to be. Long after this moment has passed into the next, and the next after that in an endless, gentle succession of nows that require nothing, ask for nothing, and offer everything. Time moves differently here. Not slower, exactly. Not faster, just different. It feels less like a line stretching forward and more like a pool, deep and still, where each moment can be entered fully without the pull of what comes next. The clock still ticks, the seconds still pass, but they do not press, they do not insist. They simply accumulate quietly, like snow on a roof, layer upon layer of moments that build without weight. The tea in the mug has cooled slightly, not cold, but no longer steaming. The temperature has found an equilibrium with the air around it, settling into a warmth that is comfortable rather than hot. If someone were to lift the mug now, they would feel its heat through the ceramic, gentle against their palms. They would smell the chamomile, faint and floral, rising from the surface. They would see the liquid inside, still and clear, reflecting the lamplight in a small, trembling circle. But the mug remains where it is, untouched, waiting. There is no hurry. On the table beside the puzzle, a few pieces have been separated from the rest. Someone has begun to sort the edges from middles, blues from greens. The work is incomplete. Only a small pile of edge pieces sits to one side, and even those are not all present. Some remain lost in the larger scatter, indistinguishable from the rest. The box lid leans against the table's edge, showing the completed image. A meadow, a stream, trees in the distance. The kind of scene that exists more in memory than in any specific place. Whoever started this puzzle may return to it tomorrow, or next week, or never. It does not matter. The puzzle will wait. It has waited this long. It can wait longer. The photographs on the mantel catch the lamplight at their edges. The glass over each image reflects a faint glow, making it slightly harder to see the faces beneath. But they are there, smiling, frozen in moments that felt important enough to preserve: a birthday, a graduation, a simple afternoon in the sun, occasions that seemed significant then and remain so now, though for different reasons. Then they were about the future. Now they are about the past, and both matter. Both deserve their place here. The dried flower between the frames is so fragile it might crumble if touched. Its petals are thin as paper, brittle as autumn leaves. Yet it stands, held upright by its stem, defying the gravity that should have pulled it apart long ago. There is something stubborn about it, something quietly persistent. It has lost its color, its scent, its softness. But it has not lost its form. It is still recognizably a flower, even in its desiccation. Still beautiful in a way. Just differently. The room seems to breathe. Not literally, of course, but there is a rhythm to it. The radiator hisses. The clock ticks. The house creaks. Each sound arrives in its own time, never overlapping, never competing. They take turns, these small noises, filling the silence without crowding it. And between them, the silence itself becomes part of the rhythm. Not an absence of sound, but a presence. A thing that can be felt, almost held. Near the window, frost has begun to form on the inside of the glass. Tiny crystals spreading slowly from the corners, reaching inward in delicate patterns. They catch the light from outside the street lamp's glow, filtered through falling snow, and fracture it into smaller pieces. The frost is not thick enough yet to obscure the view, but it softens it, blurs it, turns the world beyond the window into something more like a painting than a place. The chair by the window remains empty. Its cushion still holds a slight indentation from the last time someone sat there. Though it is fading slowly, the foam inside gradually returning to its original shape. The armrests show their wear more clearly in the lamplight. The fabric there is nearly smooth, the weave compressed by years of hands gripping, releasing, gripping again. It is the kind of wear that suggests not neglect, but use, comfort, belonging. The blanket draped over the chair's side is thick enough to provide warmth without being heavy. It is the color of deep forest dark green with flecks of brown woven through. The edges are bound in a darker thread, slightly frayed now, a few loose strands hanging free. If someone were to wrap themselves in it, they would feel the weight of it settle over their shoulders, grounding and gentle at once. They would smell the faint lavender, would feel the soft scratch of the wool against their skin. They would be warm. But the blanket, like the mug, like the puzzle, remains untouched, waiting. Everything here is waiting, not impatiently, not anxiously, just waiting in the way that objects wait, which is to say, existing in readiness without expectation. The room is full of things that have been used before and will be used again, and in the meantime, they rest. They hold their places, they remain. Outside, the snow has thickened. The flakes are larger now, falling faster, though still without urgency. They descend in swirling patterns, caught briefly by the wind before continuing downward. The street below is covered. The sidewalk, the curb, the parked carsel of it hidden beneath a blanket of white that grows thicker with each passing minute. The street lamp's light reflects off the snow, creating a pale glow that diffuses upward into the darkness. It is the only light visible now. The rest of the town has gone dark. Windows that glowed earlier have dimmed. Curtains have been drawn. People have retreated inward, seeking their own warmth, their own light, their own stillness. And inside this house, the world shrinks down to the size of a single room. The lamp, the chair, the window, the walls. These are the boundaries now. Everything else, the street, the town, the world beyond, fades into abstraction. It is out there, certainly. It continues, but it no longer matters. Not tonight, not here. Here, there is only this space, this warmth, this quiet, and it is enough. More than enough. The kettle in the kitchen has cooled completely now. If someone were to touch it, they would find the metal only slightly warm, barely distinguishable from the air around it. The burner beneath is cold. The stove itself holds no heat. But the kettle remains where it is, ready to be filled again, ready to be heated, ready to serve its purpose when called upon. For now, it rests. The dish beside it still holds its tea bags. The strings have settled slightly, their paper tags lying flat against the dish's rim. The scent of chamomile has faded into the general smell of the kitchen wood, paper, faint traces of earlier cooking. But it is still there if one knows to look for it, still present, still offering its small comfort. Through the doorway, the living room remains unchanged. The lamp burns steadily. The shadows hold their positions. The clock ticks on. And the silence, that deep, textured silence, continues to fill the spaces between sounds, to give weight to the stillness, to make the room feel not empty, but full. Full of quiet, full of peace, full of the kind of contentment that does not need to be earned or explained. It simply is. Someone enters the room, not loudly, not suddenly. They simply appear, stepping through the doorway from the hall with the kind of quietness that comes from moving through a familiar space in dim light. Their footsteps are soft on the wooden floor, barely audible over the clock's ticking. They do not hurry. There is nowhere they need to be except here. They are dressed simply. Comfortable clothes, a sweater, loose and soft, its sleeves pushed up to the elbows. Pants that have been worn many times, their fabric thin in places from washing. Thick socks, hand-knit perhaps, or store-bought, but well-loved. The kind of clothing that prioritizes comfort over appearance, that has been chosen not for how it looks, but for how it feels. They move toward the chair by the window, not directly, but in a wandering path that suggests no particular destination. Along the way, they pause at the bookshelf, running fingers along the spines of a few volumes without pulling any free. The touch is light, almost reverent, as if greeting old friends. They linger there for a moment, then continue on. At the side table, they notice the puzzle. Their hand hovers over the scattered pieces, considering. They pick up one piece, turn it over, examine it in the lamplight. It is sky blue on one side, blank cardboard on the other. They try to fit it into the partially completed border, but it does not belong there. They set it down again, slightly apart from the others, and move on. When they reach the chair, they do not sit immediately. Instead, they stand beside it, looking out the window at the falling snow. Their expression is unreadable in the low light, neither happy nor sad, just present, observing. The frost on the glass has spread further now, its patterns more intricate, more beautiful. They watch the snow fall for several long moments, their breaths fogging the glass slightly with each exhalation. Then, slowly, they lower themselves into the chair. The cushion accepts their weight with a soft sigh. The springs beneath creak, gently adjusting. They settle back, their head resting against the worn fabric, their hands falling naturally to the armrests. For a moment, they simply sit, eyes open, gaze directed at nothing in particular, and then they close their eyes. Not to sleep, not yet, just to rest them, to let the darkness behind their eyelids replace the dim lamplight, to remove one sense so that others might sharpen. They can hear the clock more clearly now. The radiator's hiss seems louder. The house's creaks are more distinct, each one arriving with its own character, its own tone. They breathe slowly, deeply, not as an exercise, not as something deliberate, but as a natural consequence of relaxation. Their chest rises and falls in an easy rhythm. Their shoulders, which had been slightly raised, gradually lower. Tension they did not know they were carrying begins to release, small muscle by small muscle, until they feel almost liquid in the chair, almost part of it. The blanket is within reach. Without opening their eyes, they pull it toward themselves, drawing it over their lap, their legs, up to their waist. The wool is exactly as expected soft, slightly scratchy, warm. They tuck it around themselves loosely, not securing it, just letting it rest where it falls. The weight of it is minimal, but it is enough. It adds another layer between themselves and the world. Another small barrier against the cold that exists somewhere outside these walls. They could get up. They could go to the kitchen. They could make tea, though the mug already prepared waits there, cooling but still drinkable. They could turn on more lights, though the single lamp provides enough to see by. They could do any number of things, but they do not. They remain in the chair, eyes closed, breathing slowly, wrapped in wool and warmth and the kind of stillness that feels earned. Deserved, even. After a long day, or a long week, or a long stretch of time where stillness was not possible, this moment arrives like a gift. Unexpected, perhaps, but welcome, so welcome. The wind outside picks up again, stronger this time. It moves against the house with more force, rattling the windows gently in their frames. The person in the chair hears it but does not react. The sound is not threatening. It is just weather doing what weather does. Inside, they are safe. Inside, they are warm. The wind can rage all it wants. It cannot reach them here. The snow falls faster now, driven at an angle by the wind. Flakes strike the window glass and stick there for a moment before melting, leaving tiny wet trails as they slide downward. The frost pattern is partially obscured by this, but it continues to grow at the edges, spreading slowly, patiently, as if it has all winter to complete its work. And perhaps it does. Winter is long here. The cold settles in November and does not release its grip until March, sometimes April. There are months of nights like this ahead, months of snow and wind and darkness. But somehow, knowing this does not feel oppressive. It feels almost comforting. Because for every cold night, there is a warm room. For every storm, there is shelter. For every moment of harshness outside, there is softness inside, balance. The person in the chair shifts slightly, finding a more comfortable position. One hand moves from the armrest to rest on the blanket covering their lap. The other remains where it is, fingers curled gently against the fabric. Their breathing has deepened further, slower, more regular, the kind of breathing that precedes sleep, though they are not quite there yet. Behind their closed eyelids, images drift, not quite thoughts, not quite dreams, just fragments. A memory of earlier today, walking to the mailbox in the cold, breath visible in the air. The feeling of coming back inside, the immediate relief of warmth, the smell of coffee brewing this morning, the sound of a neighbor's voice, distant, saying something unremarkable and already forgotten. These images do not demand attention. They simply pass through, like the snow passing by the window. Acknowledged and released, here and then gone, leaving no mark, no weight, no residue. Time continues its strange work. Minutes pass, though it is impossible to say how many. The clock ticks steadily, but counting becomes difficult. One tick sounds much like another. They blend together into a single continuous sound, a background hum that supports the silence rather than interrupting it. The lamp's light has not changed. It burns with the same steady warmth it has maintained all evening. The filament inside glows constant and sure, converting electricity into illumination without drama, without variation. Reliable, dependable, expected. These are qualities that might seem mundane in daylight, but here, now, they feel precious. In a world that often shifts and changes without warning, this light remains, and that is no small thing. On the mantel, the photographs continue their silent work. They hold their moments, their faces, their frozen smiles. They require nothing. They simply exist, evidence of a life lived, of moments considered worth preserving. The person in the chair might look at them tomorrow, might pick one up and remember the day it was taken, the feeling of that moment. Or they might not. The photographs do not need to be looked at to serve their purpose. They are here. That is enough. The dried flower has not moved. will not move. Its fragility is also its strength. It has survived this long by being undisturbed, by existing in a space where it is seen but not touched, noticed but not handled. It is a lesson, perhaps, in the value of stillness, in the power of remaining. The radiator hisses again. The person in the chair does not stir. The sound washes over them, through them, around them. Warmth continues to rise, continues to circulate, continues to maintain the temperature at a level that allows for comfort without thought. The body regulates itself. The room regulates itself. Everything finds its equilibrium and holds it. Outside, the wind begins to ease. Not suddenly, but gradually, the way strong winds often do. The force against the windows lessens. The rattling quiets. The angle of the falling snow shifts back toward vertical. And as the wind calms, the night seems to deepen. The darkness becomes more complete. The silence more profound. It is late now. How late exactly does not matter. Late enough that the world has settled into sleep. Late enough that traffic has ceased on the streets outside. Late enough that even the occasional barking dog has gone quiet. The town rests. The houses rest. The people inside them rest. And in this room, in this chair, wrapped in blanket and warmth and the kind of peace that cannot be forced or rushed, the person rests too. Their breathing has slowed even further. The rise and fall of their chest is barely perceptible now. Their face has softened, the lines around their eyes and mouth easing into smoothness. Their hands have gone still, no longer shifting position, no longer adjusting grip. Everything has settled. Sleep is close now, not here yet, but close. Hovering just beyond consciousness, waiting for the final release, the final letting go. And when it comes, it will come gently. There will be no sudden drop, no jarring transition. Just a gradual fading, like the way daylight fades into evening, so slowly that the exact moment of change cannot be pinpointed. The lamp will continue to burn. The clock will continue to tick. The radiator will continue to hiss. These things do not need attention to continue. They are reliable in their constancy, faithful in their repetition. And in that faithfulness, there is comfort. The room will remain exactly as it is. The rug will not shift. The books will not fall. The puzzle pieces will not rearrange themselves. Everything will stay in its place, holding the space, maintaining the stillness, preserving the peace. And when morning comes, as it eventually will, the room will be ready. The lamp will be turned off. The blanket will be folded. The mug will be carried to the sink. Life will resume its gentle rhythms. But that is tomorrow's concern. Tonight, there is only this. This moment, this stillness, this peace. The snow continues to fall, though more lightly now. The wind has gone almost completely still. The cold remains outside, but it is a distant cold, an abstract cold, something known but not felt. Inside, warmth persists. Inside, safety holds. Inside, everything needed is present, and everything not needed has been left behind. The person in the chair breathes in, breathes out, breathes in again, each breath a little slower than the last. Each exhalation a little deeper, a little more complete. They are sinking now, not into the chair, but into themselves. Into a place where thought becomes optional, where awareness begins to blur at the edges. Where the boundaries between waking and sleeping grow soft and permeable. They are letting go. Not of anything specific. Not of worries or concerns or responsibilities. Those will still be there tomorrow. But for now, just for tonight, they are letting go of the need to hold on to anything at all. They are allowing themselves to simply be, to exist without purpose or plan, to rest without agenda. And in that letting go, there is a kind of freedom, the kind that does not announce itself with fanfare, the kind that arrives quietly, like snow accumulating on a roof, layer by layer, moment by moment, until suddenly, without realizing it, the weight of the day has lifted, the tension has eased, the mind has quieted, and sleep, patient sleep, finally arrives. It comes like a blanket being drawn up, like warmth spreading through cold limbs, like darkness deepening into something complete and enveloping. It comes without resistance, without struggle, without the need for anything other than permission. And the person in the chair, wrapped in wool and lamplight and the accumulated stillness of the evening, gives that permission freely. They surrender to it. They let it take them. And as they slip beneath the surface of consciousness, as they cross that invisible threshold into true rest, the room remains. The lamp burns on, the clock ticks, the radiator hisses, the house stands firm against the winter night. Everything continues, steady and sure, as it has all along. The only difference is that now there is no one awake to notice, and that is perfectly fine. The world does not need to be witnessed to exist. The room does not need to be observed to maintain its warmth. The night does not need to be acknowledged to continue its slow progression toward dawn. Everything simply is. And in that being, there is enough. More than enough. The snow will keep falling for hours yet. By morning, it will have covered everything: streets, cars, rooftops, tracing, a layer of white so pure and complete that the world will look new again. Transformed, made fresh by the simple accumulation of frozen water crystallizing and descending and settling. But that is still to come. For now, there is only the falling, the gentle, persistent falling. Flake after flake after flake, each one unique, each one temporary, each one part of something larger than itself. They fall without purpose, without destination, without thought. They simply do what snow does. They descend. They accumulate, they cover, And inside, in the chair by the window, the person sleeps. Their breathing is deep and regular now, their face completely relaxed. Their body still, except for the slight rise and fall of their chest. They have gone somewhere beyond this room, beyond this night, beyond the reach of anything that might disturb or trouble them. They are safe in that place, protected, held. The blanket has shifted slightly in their sleep, sliding down to reveal one shoulder, but they do not notice. They do not stir to adjust it. The room is warm enough that the small exposure does not matter. They remain comfortable. They remain asleep, and they will stay that way for hours, through the deepest part of the night, through the coldest hours before dawn, through the gradual shift from black sky to deep blue to pale grey that precedes the sun. They will sleep through all of it, undisturbed, unaware, completely at rest. The lamp on the table continues its work. The light it casts has not dimmed, has not flickered. It maintains its steady glow, illuminating the same small circle it has illuminated all evening. The shadows it creates remain in their familiar positions. Nothing has changed. Nothing needs to. On the shelf, the clock marks 2 in the morning, then 3, then 4. The hours pass in their measured way, each one identical in length, but somehow feeling different. The deepest night is past now. Dawn, though still distant, has begun its inevitable approach. But inside the room, this shift goes unnoticed. Time continues, but it is time without consequence. Time that passes without taking anything, without leaving marks. Outside, the snow has finally begun to taper off. The flakes are smaller now, fewer, falling at greater intervals. The wind has ceased entirely. The air is still and brutally cold, the kind of cold that makes trees crack and metal contract. But the house stands against it, as it has stood against countless winters before. The walls hold, the warmth persists. The shelter remains secure. The person in the chair shifts slightly in their sleep. A small movement, barely perceptible. One hand slides from the armrest to rest in their lap. Their head tilts slightly to one side, finding a more comfortable angle against the chair's back. And then they are still again. These small adjustments happen without waking them. The body knows how to care for itself, how to seek comfort even in sleep. The room has grown slightly cooler as the night has progressed. The radiator, though still warm, does not produce quite as much heat as it did earlier. The furnace in the basement has cycled off, will cycle on again soon, but the change in temperature is minimal, gradual. Nothing that would cause discomfort. The lamp's light seems warmer now, somehow, though it has not changed. Perhaps it is only the contrast with the deepening darkness outside that makes it seem so. Or perhaps the eye, adjusting over hours, perceives it differently. Either way, the quality of light in the room has shifted subtly. It feels more intimate now, more protective, as if it is not just illuminating the space, but guarding it. On the windowsill, the empty mug sits where it has sat all night. The coffee inside has gone cold hours ago. It will be filled again tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that. For now, it waits. The frost on the window has reached its peak. The patterns are elaborate now, intricate and beautiful. Ferns and feathers and geometric shapes that seem both random and intentional. They have claimed most of the glass, leaving only a small, clear patch near the center. Through this patch, if one were awake to look, the street would be visible, empty, white. Silent under the street lamps, pale glow. But no one is looking. The person sleeps, the room rests, the house stands, and the night, that long winter night, continues its slow movement. Toward conclusion, everything is as it should be. Everything is exactly right. In the silence, in the warmth, in the darkness held at bay by a single lamp's glow, there is perfection. Not the perfection of flawlessness, but the perfection of rightness, of things being in their proper places. The surface of the liquid is still and dark, reflecting nothing. But the mug itself retains a memory of warmth, of being held, of serving its purpose. It is patient, of needs being met without effort, of rest being allowed, even encouraged. The world outside can wait. The demands of tomorrow can wait. The responsibilities and concerns and all the things that fill daylight hours, they can all wait. Because right now, in this room, at this hour, there is only peace. Deep, complete, unshakable peace. The kind that does not come from having everything solved or settled, but from being allowed for just a little while to stop trying, to stop striving, to stop carrying the weight of wakefulness. The kind of peace that is also a gift. And gifts, when given freely, need only be accepted. The person in the chair has accepted it, has surrendered to it, has allowed themselves to sink into it fully, and in doing so, they have found what so many seek and so few find: rest. True rest. The kind that restores not just the body, but something deeper. Something harder to name, but no less real. The lamp will burn until morning. The clock will tick until morning. The house will stand until morning. And when morning comes, when light begins to filter through the frosted window, when the world stirs and wakes and demands attention once again, this night will have done its work. It will have provided shelter from the cold. It will have offered warmth against the darkness. It will have given rest to one who needed it, and that will be enough. That will be everything. For now, though morning is still hours away, the darkness holds, the cold remains outside. The snow, having finally stopped, lies still and deep over everything. And inside, in this room, in this chair, wrapped in blanket and lamplight and the accumulated stillness of a long winter night, the person sleeps. Deeply, peacefully, completely, and the night, gentle and patient, keeps watch over them until dawn.